Good morning, everybody. Welcome to SafeDefend Fridays, I guess I should call this. But Jeff, thank you for joining us. Of course, the founder of SafeDefend, Jeff Green. What an unreal few days we've had, Jeff.
Yeah, the entire nation is mourning, and it's I'm sure most people are like we are. It hurts us to the core. This tragedy really hits home for a lot of people. We want to talk a little bit today, I think, about some of the things that went wrong, in the sense that I think we could have prevented quite a few deaths in this type of situation. This one had some struggles that we're still dealing with. Now, of course, information is still coming out. You really can't necessarily say that everything that's happened or reported is fact yet. We still know that there's a lot of questions and a lot of misinformation out there, but there are some things coming to light that are pretty troubling. In addition to that, this really unfortunately is not a surprise. We have been trending this direction in violence over the last even several years, not just because of the pandemic, but it has been amplified substantially by the pandemic. And if you look back at kind of the history, Columbine is kind of the baseline of school active shooter events. There were several years until Sandy Hook, although there were some other smaller shootings that took place, but kind of those benchmark type events like Uvalde. So then after Sandy Hook, we had Parkland, and now we've got Uvalde in there. I'm telling you, the trend is really leaning towards even potentially another major event or God forbid, multiple ones coming up, potentially even this year. The violence trend is really spiking right now. And I think we're really going to see a shortened gap between major events than we have in the past.
Well, and you said the word that terrifies me, the trend. I mean, whoever thought that these acts of violence would be a trend. I mean, and it's our babies, Jeff. These are our innocent. I mean, it's our babies. And you're a professional in this. I'm just a dad. I know you're a dad too, but I'm just a dad. I haven't devoted my life's work to SafeDefend and to trying to make schools, office buildings, churches, wherever safe. And that's your life's work. That's your team's life work. And I know what I feel right now. And many of the things that have came out, there are some troubling things that are being discussed. We don't know what is all fact and what's not. But
Correct.
One thing we do know, there's been a lot of things that were originally said that they've now came back. The authorities have came back and walked back and said, well, that isn't accurate. That didn't happen this way.
Right.
You've always told me, we don't even listen to what they claim, happened at the very beginning because it always changes. Now I'm not being critical. Listen, I'm not being critical of law enforcement brothers and sisters around the nation as a whole. I'm talking about the situation, unfortunately, in Texas right now. And
100%.
And so I want to be really clear about that. You won't find people. I mean, our staff's made up of law enforcement educators, first responders, SafeDefend. So we're not being critical of those professions. It's a horrible situation. And Jeff, I think it still comes back to this, and people can disagree with me all they want. I mean, the mental health is at an all-time low. I'm not even going to say in our country, in our world right now. And it's just, we have got to, and the other thing, and I'm sorry, I'm rambling, but we got to start being real about what the real problems are.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll tell you a couple of points that you bring up that are really valuable. We can analyze and really evaluate the response of law enforcement or first responders without making that an application to law enforcement in general, right?
Right.
Just like when I was a principal evaluating a teacher, if there was things that they needed to work on, that didn't mean all teachers needed to work on those things. So we're not applying some of the things that seem to be coming out to the profession. But we're at a point where we've had enough of these. Law enforcement response is fairly clear on how they typically respond. And it does not seem, and I'm going to say seem right now because we still don't have all the facts. It doesn't seem that law enforcement protocols were followed the way they typically should have been in this type of event.
And when you show, we've all seen the videos by now, the parents outside the school pleading, begging, then screaming,
right?
We got to get in there. And then you hear the stories of a mom that's drove 40 miles, gets put in handcuffs,
right? Then
gets let out of handcuffs, and then goes in and gets her kids. The scene still wasn't secure,
right?
I mean, now that's the part we're all focused on. But when I look at this, also I go, how is there an unlocked, unsecured exterior door in a school?
Well, absolutely. And you brought up the other point earlier about the mental health crisis. Not only are we in the grips of a massive mental health crisis in this country, and like you said, even the world, and much of it's fueled by the pandemic, we also have devalued law enforcement. Yeah. We're probably more divided politically. Well, not probably. We're more divided politically in this country than we've ever been. You're either right or wrong, no matter what side you're on. And so, we've created this minimizing authority and rule. We've not supported, and honestly, I don't even know what the answer is as far as supporting how we could have better supported the mental health crisis that we're now into from a pandemic, because no one had really dealt with that before. But we're really seeing a perfect storm. We're seeing a perfect storm of factors that are going to contribute to more violence in this country. Now, it may not all present itself in a school shooting scenario, but May was one of the most deadly months we've had in a long time, with multiple shooting events, with multiple casualties. The trend is just frightening, honestly.
Well, and there were signs. We always talk about this. We talk about this every week. And you and I, we talk about it almost every day when we're just on the phone talking about different business aspects and just different things. We have conversations, and there were signs everywhere. And it's just, you've got to act. If you see these things, you've got to act. We're so scared, to your point, I believe, that we're going to offend somebody, that we don't want the bead put on us of judgment or ridicule because you say, hey, something's not right here, that people aren't acting. And I'm not pointing fingers down there. I'm just saying all of us, we've all got to do a better job of responding when we see things that we know aren't right. You just cannot take a chance that you're wrong. You can't.
Well, and Uvalde actually stopped a potential active shooter in 2019. They had a middle schooler making credible threats with a weapon, and they were able to stop that. So, you would think that would put them in a position to be even more aware, and paying attention to some of the signs going around. Rarely, and I'm not even sure if I can give you an example where this didn't take place, where there wasn't something to indicate something bad's going to take place by any of the shooters, by any of Sandy Hook, Columbine. There were signs all over the place. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. It's just, I can't come up with an example, and there may be, but I can't come up with one where there wasn't signs. And some of that is a little bit of the psychology, right? If you're friends or have some sort of association with that person, your first response is, oh, they're not going to do that. I don't believe that. That's hard for the normal person to really be able to comprehend that something like that can take place. And it's somewhat similar to when there's a car crash or there's an event, a lot of people get there, but you really need to have someone take charge and say, you need to call 911, because they sit there, people tend to watch and think somebody else is going to be the one that's going to get help there or make that happen. And I think some of that psychology transfers to when you see these threats online. Oh, someone else is going to be the one that's going to say something. I don't need to say something. Or even that disbelief that I know that person, they're not going to do that. And so it's unfortunate that we get the signs and we're just not responding to them.
Well, and I think, I told you this earlier, I'm like so many, I think you're horribly sad, but you're also angry, and I think the key is that we take that emotion and we start doing positive things with it to come up with solutions. And, I say this all the time, until local communities, until the people in local communities demand that their schools are safe for their children and say, listen, this is our top priority. And we don't care if we have to run bond issues. We don't care what it is. We've got to give the schools, because if somebody chooses not to do SafeDefend, it's usually in public schools because there's budget restraints, and so this has got to become a priority. I'm done letting people off the hook, me personally, just as a father and a man.
You're absolutely right.
We have got to start demanding these things. And then when you demand them, you got to provide the mechanism to pay for them.
Well, I walked away from a pretty darn good career to really try to prevent the things that just happened this week and that have happened since I've walked away. Without a doubt, from what I've seen so far of this event, SafeDefend could have made a difference.
There's no doubt.
In this situation, SafeDefend absolutely could have made a difference. Although there's a lot of other things that are in play here that may have contributed, SafeDefend absolutely could have made a difference, and that's why we are here. This really, we have no problem putting fire alarms in schools, and we haven't had a school fire since 1958 of any significance, of any injuries. Nobody has any issues with that. It becomes just part of the building. It's part of the requirements. But our biggest threat to our kids is violence in the schools, and we're not being proactive in that regard. Now we have so many clients, and we've received many letters from our clients that said, "Hey, look, I sent this out to our community. I felt really good about being able to say we had SafeDefend in place in our schools." So they're able to reassure their community. They're able to really, say, "Hey, look, we were proactive. This is what we've got in place. God forbid this ever happens here. We're better prepared than most places are going to be." And so that type of feedback is why we're doing what we want. But good Lord, we've got to stop prioritizing football fields over safety. We've got to stop prioritizing, new windows or new lawnmowers over safety. I will tell you, Phil, there's never been more money available through grants and through a lot of the money that came through the pandemic that could be used for safety right now. So schools are in the best position they've been in a long time.
Well, and I'm saying this. I talked to my representative yesterday, and at the federal level, and I told him point blank. I said, I don't care. I mean, I'm just going to say, this is me, Phil Nichols, saying this. Last week, we sent $40 billion to another country. $40 billion. So let's carve out a little bit of money instead of just and I'm not saying they're not heartbroken. I'm not saying they don't think it's tragic, and I'm not pointing fingers at any one party. I'm saying all of them. Until all the politicians get together and quit worrying about if they're got a D before their name or an R before the name, and they say, we're going to make our kids safe. If you can come up with $40 billion, and that's not all the money we've sent over there, that's just the latest money we've sent over there. If we can afford to send that to Ukraine, who historically, again, this is me saying, one of the most corrupt nations in the freaking history of the world, then why can't we figure out a way to spend $40 billion out to the states to say, this is 100% earmarked do matching with it. I don't care how you do it, but we've got to take care and make sure that our kids are safe. I mean, if my wife, who's now a retired teacher, if she was still teaching, I'm telling you right now, the way I feel, I would be doing everything I could to make sure she didn't spend another day in a classroom. And I think that's going to be a byproduct of this too. You think there's teacher shortages now in the country? This is going to have such an effect on education overall. It's ridiculous. And we've got to, I talk to people, good friends that are in law enforcement, that are unbelievable human beings. And I know that they would walk into fire to save a child or to save a complete stranger. I mean, I know they would. But that's one component of it. And that's the part that people don't get. I mean, and first of all, like in our little town, I think our town tries hard, but we don't have a resource officer in every building. And what's the reason? Budget.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason. It's not that our administrators don't recognize it. It's not that they don't want to do it. It's budget.
Well, and yeah, absolutely. And to your point, our clients that we have on board, we have 300 districts over 9 states right now. They've made safety a priority. So it really comes down to a prioritization, right? Because the funds are there. In addition, you talk about SROs, you talk about other ways we can enhance the safety. We say around here, the first 15 seconds dictates the next 15 minutes. And getting notification, getting law enforcement and or support to the exact location is absolutely critical and makes a difference. Those first 15 seconds are going to determine how many lives are lost and how much of a tragedy this really is going to become. Another interesting article I just saw recently is, should we adopt the model of Israeli schools? You're looking at a country that's frequently deals with terroristic events. You're looking at a country that is next to a country that doesn't like them.
Live with it every day.
Yeah. And so their threat level is always high. But their schools are like forts. And the chain link fence, razor wire, guards, controlled access in and out. So that's a possibility. But is that how we want our schools to feel, right? And so,
right.
So there's other ways we can make our schools safe. We can make law enforcement more effective responding to any sort of crisis. God forbid active shooter, but even any emergency that they have to deal with. There's many things we can do to really enhance, and that includes an instant notification. That includes training. Training is critical. It's absolutely critical. And it's one of the easiest things to incorporate and implement. And it's so empowering for staff if it's done correctly. And it really brings peace of mind to that community and to those staff, just knowing they have that training, giving them the ability to respond to a crisis, not just an active shooter, but being able to respond to any sort of violent or chaotic crisis event. Notification to law enforcement, empowering the district to be able to respond effectively to get their safety protocols in place and support those schools. There's so much we can do. We continue to do the same thing we've done for 30 years. We continue to invest in cameras. We continue to invest in locking the front door, and we continue to invest in radios. Now, don't get me wrong, those actually have a role.
Absolutely.
They have a role, but we are relying on them to prevent something bad from happening, but it's already happening because that person's already inside. And once all of those are breached, once 2 people try to get on that radio and lock each other out, that camera system is not going to be worth anything for saving lives. It's going to help with prosecution and training videos.
Yeah. And we
still rely heavily on those aspects, which are 30, 50 years old, honestly.
Well, it's the definition of insanity, right? It's the definition of insanity. So I've got a great question here. It says, what type of grants are there for SafeDefend systems? How do parents assist schools with getting those grants or getting information on them? Budget cuts were mentioned in a post this morning as a concern with asking schools for SafeDefend.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a federal grant called the COPS grant, COPS, and I think it's technically the SVPP grant. They're providing up to $500,000, up to a 75% match. So the district would only have to pay about 25% of the total, which I think works out to about $620,000 for a total system type, where they could get $500,000 of that paid for. It's a little bit labor intensive, and it's a little bit of a short turnaround, but it is open right now, and it absolutely is a great way to get federal money coming in. Really putting pressure on state legislatures. There's a lot of ESSER and ARP money that wasn't spent. There's a lot of money from COVID that is just still sitting in a lot of state budgets, and that can be released to be used for school safety. So really contacting your state legislators, really putting pressure on your governors to really say, hey, look, this is critical, this is important. And several states, Kansas included, I don't know what states they're asking the question from, but several states are providing matching grants. Kansas has come up with $5 million. We're actually pushing them to try to get that number up, but they have $5 million right now. That's a matching grant that school districts can apply for to get safety systems put in their schools. So yeah, schools are facing some budget cuts in some areas, but there is some money available specifically for safety, for the ability to enhance that district, and it's just a matter of making that the priority and going and getting it.
Jeff, do you mind giving a good email for people to reach out direct to SafeDefend? So if they have additional questions, would you go ahead and just tell everybody your email? Yeah,
Jeff, it's just JEFF at SafeDefend.com, SafeDefend.com, Jeff at SafeDefend.com.
Yeah, and I mean, and give your phone number real quick too.
Yeah, absolutely. 913-856-2800.
Follow up from this parent, and I appreciate this parent. I don't know who this person is, but I appreciate them for taking this serious. Can you post that response later so that I can get that info out to some parents that were asking about it? Thank you. Yes, we will. We'll get it. We'll post it on SafeDefend's Facebook page on how to get it. And I encourage you also to reach out to Jeff via email or give him a phone call. You can instant message us on Facebook as well, or use Messenger. But we want to get you that information. We'll help any way we can.
Absolutely.
There's a key thing here. We've got to talk to our legislators. We've got to talk to our governors. We've got to talk to all those people and not stop. We also got to talk to our local school board members, our local superintendents. And again, I'm saying that because they've got to know how big of a priority this is for the people that they represent. And it's now, like I said, the people got to be willing to pay for it. We can't just wait for somebody else to do this. We got to take action. There's training systems that are out there for years. To be quite frank, they tell you what you need to do. Well, everybody knows that, but how do you do it? And more importantly, do you have a process and a system to do it?
Right.
And that's the thing. I mean, one of the things that the years ago when you and I first met each other, the thing that amazed me about your system was that immediate notification, notification. If there was ever an example where immediate notification could have made a huge difference, it was this event yesterday or 2 days ago.
Parkland.
Immediate notification. Yes. All of them, right?
Yes.
But you've got to talk to people. We don't have the luxury of sitting back and waiting for somebody else to fix these problems for our children. We don't have that luxury. There has to be a proactive movement in this country that occurs to go out and make things happen, or these are going to continue to happen at an alarming rate. It's not, and I know that we all fall into this thing and say, oh, that happens everywhere else. It happens everywhere.
Yeah.
Don't be the next, that happens somewhere else. Don't be that next location.
Yeah. The mindset of this can't happen here. And I tell you, I heard a parent say that after Uvalde.
That is absolutely the first response.
Every single time that is the first response, and it can, and it's going to happen again.
And I don't know. I think that you talk about training, I'm trying really hard, Jeff, because all week ever since this happened, you and I have had a lot of emotional conversations.
Absolutely.
But I'm trying really hard to bring this back down a little bit because I'm getting way too into it, I guess. But just with my emotion. But we talk about training. Training is something you can do. If you're a district, if you're a business owner out there, if you're someone who wants to take care of this, and you're going, well, yeah, I mean, right now we don't, I hear you. It's going to take time to get money. What can we do today? You can train today. You can get systems. You can get processes into place. You can better inform, educate, and prepare your staffs. You can do all these things without waiting for somebody to come up with all the money. Training is very inexpensive. Training does not cost an arm and a leg. Training is something that you can do immediately to make your students safer. You don't have to wait for that.
And we are better at training than anybody else in the world.
There's not a doubt about that.
We do.
It's not. You guys are professional trainers. But I want everybody to understand this. This is the year. This is the time of year where our babies are not going to be in school buildings, right? These summer months is an opportunity for every parent, every grandparent, every aunt, every uncle, every sibling, everybody to go out and start advocating to make our schools safer. We have to put pressure on people to make it safe. When I say that, I'm not implying that these people don't want to make it happen, but it's all about a priority, right? And anytime there's a shooting, it's all we talk about for 3 to 5 days, and then we quit talking about it. Yep. And we've got to stop that mindset. It's got to be a mindset of constant and consistent action and execution of implementing a plan to make sure that things are getting done. We can't wait.
Right now, the fastest path to success in my mind is the legislative side.
No doubt.
Really, there is money sitting there that could be released to schools to help them implement training, help them implement notification systems, help them implement even just basic, changing door locks. There's lots of schools that are really in need of some just basic safety issues.
Oh, yeah.
As much as we want every school to have SafeDefend, we also know that there's other priorities that need to be addressed too. So get the money in there, get SafeDefend in, get basic security layers in. Let us help. But getting the legislators to release the money will be the fastest path right now to get some pretty significant changes in school safety done.
I think that, I think all of us could sit there, and I just want to wrap it up with this, Jeff. We can all sit there and watch those videos of those poor parents stuck outside and the poor law enforcement stuck outside. I know there's a lot of law enforcement that wanted to go in. I'm going to assume that. I mean, I've been in a lot of those type of scenarios in my previous life, and that's a normal reaction, right? But there's a chain of command. And so I just want to say that we all need to pray for peace through this process. This isn't going to go away for that community, for those families, ever. This will never go away. I didn't lose my son to an act of violence, but I lost a 16-year-old son, as you very well know, Jeff. And the anguish that these families are going to go through, the path they're getting ready to enter into, I don't wish on my worst enemy. It is the absolute most gut-wrenching thing you can experience is to lose a child. And we have got to quit talking, and we have got to start taking action. Absolutely.
Well, the parents' lives are changed forever. Their families are changed forever. That community is changed forever. The domino effect from these types of events reaches far past just those immediate victims and families, and it's a lifetime of anguish and change. And
it never goes.
That school district will never be the same. There will be many teachers that walk away that can't come back and teach. And so
we were talking about this. That building, I don't know any way they'll ever be able to use that building. They'll have to raise that building.
Yeah, absolutely. They'll tear down and start over.
You're gonna ask kids that are in that building to go back to it come the end of August?
It's yeah.
I mean, it's not gonna happen.
No, it's brutal. So
well, Jeff,
we see it over and over again. It is time. This is what we do. This is why we're here. Not because this happened, but to prevent this from happening. And nobody does it better than we do. We've got to start making some changes. We've got to start getting some stuff moving and implemented. School districts, when they prioritize safety, stuff gets done. When they prioritize the football field gets done. So it's all about prioritization. Get with your legislators. Start getting them to release money towards school safety. Put the pressure on them. There are a lot of elections are coming up here in this fall. I wouldn't imagine you'd want to be a politician that says, no, I didn't prioritize school safety in this climate. There's so much we can do to help. We'll make sure all contact information, reach out through Facebook, call us directly, email me directly. We are here to help. There are things that can be done to prevent this, to mitigate this, and to stop having lives crushed,
just destroyed. It's just destroyed. And my last thing I'll say is our prayers are with everybody that's directly affected with this. Our prayers are with those first responders, those police officers,
absolutely,
everybody that is involved, regardless of what was or wasn't done exactly the way that maybe it should have been. We don't know all that yet, but regardless of that, prayers are with them. This is an impossible situation. It's something that we've got to take action on.
If the time's not now, when?
Yeah, exactly. Jeff, I appreciate you again. You can reach Jeff at jeff@safedefend.com. They've got a team there ready to help. If you're a parent with in the community, or you're part of a parent advisory board, or you're involved with PTA or anything in your community, and you have questions about how you can help make sure your kids are safe, please reach out, Jeff at SafeDefend.com. You can also reach out at info@SafeDefend.com. But we've got more to come. Again, just prayers with everybody that's affected by this. Jeff, we appreciate you. Appreciate the work you and your team are doing. Thank you. I talk to you all the time, and I feel like I take it for granted what you guys do, and I just want you to know how much we appreciate what you guys are doing every day.
Thank you.
All right, brother.
Take care.
Try to have a good Memorial weekend. We'll talk soon.
Definitely. Thank you.
All right, Jeff.
Thank you.